So I don't know, maybe we start with, I guess my go-to kind of shoe for the ones that we've been testing right now. The Mizuno Neo Zen is one that I have really been loving a lot. I would consider this one like everyday trainer type of thing. I mean, it really has been serving a purpose for kind of any run that I want to do. I think the only thing that I haven't put it through right now is like a long run of like 20 miles or so, but just given how it performs on like a medium long run, like 14, 15, I would, posit that it would hold up quite longer. And I'm sure you've done some long stuff in it, but I would consider it like a super trainer. There's no plate in it. It's just the foam, but it feels very responsive. It's pretty thick. It's got a decent amount of cushion on it, but very responsive. So if I'm doing, say, like a medium long up tempo run, even an easy run, I've done a lot of recovery runs in there, doubles, easy doubles. That's kind of like, I'm going to use this, whatever the run is going to be that day, my go-to daily trainer. That's kind of been one of those in my rotation right now. And I think actually this is the first time ever in my life that, you said I've been running forever, but I think the first time I've ever ran in a Mizuno shoe.
Yeah.
And I know these are a bit different though, because they typically have their Wave Rider line and stuff. And so I'd never had a chance to try those, but it seems like Mizuno kind of went a different direction with the Neo Zen, something different than maybe some of their older shoes. But yeah, first time in a Mizuno, I was very impressed. The way that it fits too, I mean, it fits like a sock. You don't really feel like, I think it's just a single basically piece of fabric on the top that is fitting there. So it fits very well, super comfortable, probably one of the more comfortable shoes I've ever worn. Didn't have any issues like right out of the box. Sometimes you get either on your Achilles tendon or like in the front of your foot, you get the little aches and stuff, or it like digs into your skin, but nothing with this one. So I love the fit. I've been putting that through again. Yeah. Like just pulling that out and doing it on my easy daily training runs, or if I want to go a little bit up tempo. Haven't done any workouts in it lately, but like that 6 minute per mile pace, which is kind of like a upper end of zone 2-ish kind of right now. It's like perfect for that. So that's kind of my ideal use case for my go-to daily trainer for that one.
Yeah. Mizuno as a brand has surprised me. If you had told me like a few months ago, all right, you're going to pivot from exclusivity with Ultra and start doing shoe reviews, what brand is going to be the one that is just like going after it? I would have never picked Mizuno.
Yeah, totally.
But between the Wave Rebellion and the Neo Zen, I think they really are putting together a pretty cool set of shoes. The Neo Zen, I always cringe when I see a brand say like, oh, this is sort of a shoe that does it all. Because I'm like, okay, that thing's going to suck at everything. Or maybe not suck at everything, but it's going to be like just okay at everything. And then you're going to kind of have like, yeah, if you need one shoe and that's all you're going to have, then those type of shoes may be the reality. But, a lot of people nowadays are kind of getting some variety and also recognizing their shoes tend to last longer when they have kind of a rotation versus just beating up the same pair for a variety of different things all the time. So it can even be cost savings to have multiple shoes. But the Neo Zen, I didn't really feel like they stepped out of line with that marketing push because it sort of does really, really well from easy up to what I would call like maybe a session shoe. So like even like a workout. I've done everything in it other than race, and that's probably where I would draw the line. Not because I don't think it'd be an okay racing shoe. I think it probably outperforms some racing shoes out there, but the racing shoe market now is so sophisticated. You're just going to find faster shoes, including ones on their own lineup. But the thing I like about that shoe was, like you said, that upper, it's just kind of like a knit sock fit. So you do want to get the sizing right on that one, I think. I think if you get like a half a size too big even, it can get maybe a little sloppy because it's a little stretchier. Or if you have like a really low, maybe someone with a moderate to larger volume foot wouldn't have this issue at all. But if someone has a more narrow foot, I think if they go into that one and they're like a half size off, they may feel like it's a little sloppy or they have to like really ratchet down those laces. So I did find like getting the lace right made that shoe a little bit better on my foot. I do like, coming out of foot shape toe box, I did like what they did with their foot shape. It was, or their toe box. It was a little roomier than some of the other models I've been in the past that don't have that foot shape design. It had my only criticism, I think, with the toe box was, and this is kind of the reality of most shoes, is they have like on that inside, it always kind of rolls in. And if it rolls in just right, I can kind of feel the fabric just touching my toe. And it's not probably a performance thing. I probably just notice it because I'm not used to that versus it becoming something you just ignore because it's not rubbing. It's not like putting a pressure point or anything like that. But it's just like, it'd be like if I was like walking and someone had like a finger on my shoulder. It wouldn't be like doing anything negative to me, but I would know that finger was there. And I noticed that when I didn't have the lacing right. When I get the lacing right, I hardly notice that at all. But yeah, I mean, that foam just bounces nicely.
It does, definitely. I found that it was the perfect balance between being way too soft and like way too kind of rigid. Honestly, it was somewhere like in between. Hard to kind of describe it, but it was they got something right with that for sure.
Yeah, this is a shoe that I picked to do a durability test for, which is something I want to do with like every time we get like a new round of shoes. Pick one that is going to work well for me in training so that I can actually justify putting that many miles on it and just take it till it breaks and just see like, okay, what did this one get out of it? And one thing I've been doing with that one, because I'm up to about 300 miles in it now. So it's getting to that, what I call like entrance point of what you should expect out of a shoe. I think most brands are going to probably target like 300 to 500 miles. And so I'm getting up to that kind of entry point where you're probably going to start seeing some signs of wear. So like when I get stopped at like an intersection or something like that, or I put them on for the first time, I'm always like, okay, how does this foam still feel nice and soft? Is it still kind of rebounding well, or does it feel like dead or something like that? And it still has that same kind of resilience to it from when I first put it on, which has been great. The other thing, I think Mizuno, between this and the Wave Rebellion, their outsoles are really nice. Like their the outsole on the Neo Zen especially, it's full rubber. So brands go different directions with this because full rubber usually means extra weight. So then they try to get a little bit more like specific, like we'll put the rubber where we need to and we can lighten up the shoe. You get someone who's got a different foot strike and all of a sudden they're just like blowing through the bottom of their shoe. So the full rubber outsole kind of takes care of that. Everyone's going to have that. And it's just this really thin material though. It's not very thick rubber. So my first thought was like, I hope that lasts. Like it doesn't just like wear through that rubber really quick. Because they tried to find that balance between full rubber and light. And I haven't had any real wear on the rubber to the degree that it looks like, okay, I don't have rubber there anymore. Now I'm pushing up into the foam. And that's at 300 miles. So I'm impressed with like what they did with that side of the shoe too, is just the outsole on it. I can look at the specs a little bit on this one. I have them written down just so people know. And I don't know if we'll go super deep into specs just because that's available to anyone who wants to look it up, but some people are interested in that just right out the gate to consider them. They're a 4 foot 34 millimeter, heel 40 millimeter, so it's pretty much max cushion. I put that in like a trainer session type category. 8.5 ounces would be the men's size 9, and then their foam is like a nitrogen infused TPU. So, with these foams, I'm going to have some guests on that we're going to deep dive into foams so that if people want to like kind of get an idea of what that market looks like, we can avoid having to do that like every episode.
For sure.
But basically what I think I'll say is like you kind of have, like from the new foams, you sort of have these like, you have the ones that are like kind of stand out, like the Piba, like the Zoom X stuff that like Nike came out. Well, Nike didn't come out with it necessarily, but they were the ones to put it on shoes. And that's sort of over the years been kind of the gold standard. And more recently, they've started brands have started playing around with like these nitrogen infused like supercritical foams, which is just basically like these pockets that they put into the foam, which is supposed to kind of bring that efficiency up. So the way I like to describe it simply is like old shoes, you're looking at like a 75% efficiency. You start putting like these higher performance foams, like what Nike's came out with, you're getting up into the 90s sometimes. So some of these supercritical foams are now pushing up towards that as well. So a lot of brands are looking at, I think, like this is my assumption anyway, how do we take something that performs close to or at what you're going to do with the traditional original super foams, but not have to be $250? So some of these supercritical foams allow you to do that, I think. Because the Neo Zen, I think, is $150 or something like that retail?
Yeah, 150, 170, something like that. So, which, I mean, seems pretty standard for running shoes these days. I mean, I remember, I'm sure you remember as well when running shoes used to be like $90 to $100, the good old days. Like, $100, they get a pair of running shoes. And now it's about half a pair now.
One other thing I'll add about the Neo Zen, and we can move on unless you got other stuff you want to talk about it, is since that upper, it's not a very supportive shoe. Like, it's going to let your foot do what it wants to do. which has its pros and cons. I think you want to know that. I think that's good for getting some like articulation in your foot muscles, your lower leg, and things like that. But I did notice after wearing that a few times, like I was a little more sore kind of in the lower, like in the feet and the ankles. So it probably took maybe about 2 weeks for that just to disappear altogether. And I took that as a sign of just like, okay, well, I'm probably getting a little more motion in that area in that shoe than I would in a more supportive structured shoe, which, you know, I think is good. But you do want to be mindful of that when anytime you're adding an extra stimulus. You don't want to overdo that and then get an injury or something like that and have something good turn into something bad. But I think that's probably going to be the reality of a shoe that's as kind of nimble as that one and soft as that one, where the soft foam and the stretchy upper is all going to kind of just let your foot get a little bit more play if we want it to.
Yeah, for sure, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like you said, you work your way into it. You know, don't take them out and go on a marathon long run the first day.
Right.
Ease into there, build up that strength a little bit. It doesn't take too much time, but yeah, I noticed kind of the same thing. A little more freedom in your feet with that one.